Hello, good evening. I could be. Hello. This is Molten Music Technology calling from the shed out into the world. Hello, hope you're all right out there. I'm a little bit out of practice. It's been a good 6 weeks, I think, since I've done this, and so I tend to lose all concept of what it is that I'm attempting to do and how it all works. But hopefully we are live. Hopefully I'm relatively in focus. Yeah, I seem to be. I hope you can hear me. And with that, I'm going to pause just briefly so that perhaps you could tell me in the chat, if I could find the chat, that it's all right, that you can see and hear me okay, and that seems to be coming through all right over there, and that we're all good. Are we all good? Because it would be lovely if we are. Sound and video good, says Ken. Good. He's your man. He's the one who knows. He's the one who keeps me straight. Great. Good. Yay, I'm here. Yeah, it's exciting. It is exciting. Here we are. I have a semi-plan for this evening. It's only a small one because, heck, I don't have the time to even think about making a plan most of the time. And that's really why I thought I'd make a plan for this evening. But then, of course, I ran out of time making a plan for this evening. But for good reasons, because I was fortunate enough, or we were fortunate enough, to put the tree decorations up, which was just lovely. It's such a lovely thing to do. We've been doing it. I mean, we've lived in our house now for 16 years. So is this our 16th Christmas? But it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And our kids now, 11, 13 and 17, still help us, still do it and still seem to enjoy it. And we just had a lovely bit of time this evening putting the tree together, putting the decorations, putting the lights up, that kind of thing. Just simple, easy stuff. We're not overly garish with our Christmas decorations, just very simple, very classic, I think you'll find. And that was lovely. So I didn't mind not getting over here quite as promptly as I'd hoped, because we were having such a lovely time. So I hope you're all doing well. Sorry I wasn't able to do a live stream the other week, but hey, it's better that we do it now, because I've got a number of things to sort of bring together. We seem to be almost at the apex of some extraordinary occurrences within the world of Molten Music Technology, which is nice. It is, or it has been, I have passed our 10-year anniversary 10 years ago. 10 years. Which is amazing. It was also my 53rd birthday. It's about to be Christmas, and we might, possibly in the next 2 or 3 months, hit 50,000 subscribers. 50,000 subscribers, which is extraordinary. It's not really extraordinary for the amount of time I've been doing this. But it's a figure nonetheless, and there's something about that feels good and decent, feels respectable, which is nice. And a lot of that is down to you lovely people out there supporting me and continuing to like and to share my videos and things like that, and that's been awesome. Now, I have spoken in the past about putting together some fantastic, some very groovy and slick 10-year anniversary video, which I absolutely intended to do. I even shot a few bits of it. And now I realise I really just don't have the time. I mean, it would be nice to be in a position where I could just go, I know, I'm going to make something interesting and creative this week. I don't seem to find myself there yet. I aspire to be in such a situation where I can do those sorts of things. But as it is, I'm kind of putting fires out or trying to meet deadlines, and I've got videos to make on things which really need to be done by now. And so I felt that I'm just never going to get that done. It's never going to come together. So rather than ignore it completely, what I sort of boiled it down to, I mean, I started off making this video about almost like my life story. I was, I was born and then there was synthesizers, that kind of thing. And it was all a bit sort of waffly, really. So the most recent version of it that I haven't made is that I really just came down to the idea of thanking people, because Molten music technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't exist on its own, not even on its own merit sometimes. There was people along the way who enabled this to happen and have enabled me to forge this little path of mine and somehow remain solvent and coherent and buoyant, because it feels very much out there in YouTube land that things are difficult, that people are finding things hard, that the weight of responsibility, the weight of putting yourself out there, the things that come with that, fame, and the sort of level of responsibility, accountability, all those sorts of things seem to weigh hard on people. And I'm still finding it all right. I've had my ups and downs, but I'm still enjoying the notion of making videos, of making stuff on here. I mean, I was at an email on Thursday night and it was just brilliant. I mean, I got there a little bit late, so I was on last. So I had to sit through hours and hours of other people's stuff. And it was brilliant. It was really nice. I got the chance to sit back and talk to a few people, have a beer or two, which was nice. And then I played to an empty hall at the end because everyone had already gone home. But that was great because I was flipping awesome. And the one thing I would like to do this evening is to plug my patch in and have a play with that, because I thought it was really good. There's a couple of specific things within it that I nailed for the first time, and that felt excellent, and that was just brilliant. So for this evening then, what I'm going to do, I'm going to waffle on a little bit just about Molten music technology, just to thank a few people and to point out a few milestones along the way, because it might be interesting, it might not. And also, as I say, I feel very grateful for where I am, and I would like to express some of that if you will indulge me. And then after that, I think we'll play with this patch. I'll talk you through it and tell you about the bits that worked and the bits that didn't. And we'll do a bit of music. I mean, that's really it. And maybe a bit of chat. I mean, I'm sure people have got all sorts of extraordinary things to ask me and to talk about. Possibly. So I think we should start off with a beer. And this place is such a mess. And go from there. So let's say hello to a few people. Hey, Jason, good to see you. Matt, great to see you. Ken, already mentioned you. Good to see you. Magical Synth Adventures in the house. It's lovely. Another Matt, Hugh, Tanuki D, Dopamine. Luke, Ridge Rider, good evening. Gosh, that's a terrible pour. I think I'm going to put that to one side. For the moment, Cornish Ways Music, good to see you. I've got a reflection right in where I don't want it to be. Hang on. That's worse. Let's do that. Okay, let's do that. Hi, Steve. Hi, Dilip, Greg, Tonal. There's some familiar faces, familiar words, and some others too. If you've never visited this before, this is, I just make it up as I go. There's no other than what I've just said is my intention. I don't really have any other intentions. I'm quite happy to answer questions, quite happy to talk about stuff people want to talk about. If we run out of immediate things to talk about, then we tend to talk about gear, or I point out something, we play with it for a bit, or we talk about anything, throw in the controversy. I'm quite happy to comment on anything you like. I'm up for that. Hey, Peter, good to see you. Ian. So how's the Thatcher 0%? Because funny enough, when I said I had a beer on Thursday night, it was, of course, a Ghost Ship, very low alcohol beer, because I've started to have to get into those because I don't like soft drinks particularly. And rather than having a little half of something, I've decided to try to embrace the more 0% alcohol things. When I'm driving, obviously. So Beavertown do a decent 0% one, which tastes all right, and so does Ghost Ship. So Thatcher's, that's a cider though, isn't it? I don't know. I think I do cider. I don't think I do cider anymore. Good. Well, yeah, I will sup away on that. Now, I did get some way in doing something a little bit clever. So let me see if I can sort that out. Just bear with me a second. No, it had to be over here. If it was over here... Oh, no, I've broken it. Oh, come on. Well, that's just... Ain't that peachy? Let's get rid of that one then. Come on. There it is. There it is. Okay. Can I zoom into that? I can a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna spin a bit of a tale about Molten Music Technology, and just to thank a few people along the way. So I'm gonna just hang on a second. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. Why is so apparently touch no longer works on my touch screen, which is annoying. So let's go. What do I need? I can't see over there. Oh my goodness me. Is it that one? Hey, that could be it. Let's go with that. Right, I've got a couple of photos in here I thought I would show, which would be amusing, or at least to me anyway. So this is the humble me at TurnKey Music Store back in 1990, something or other. I mean, this isn't, I'm not trying to say this is the genesis of Molten Music Technology. I'm just trying to point out a little couple of steps along the way. And, you know, tell me if I get bogged down in waffling, because I can talk about this for hours. In fact, I seem to remember the lovely people at the Galaxy Electric had me on their live stream a little while back. And I talked for like 3 hours, giving them my life story. And I don't even know why. I think because the first question they asked me was like, so what are you all about? And so I just then talked for like 3 hours, giving them the whole thing. Well, yeah, they bloody are. So, hey, so I don't mean to do that, but I thought I would show you a couple of things. I hope you're seeing that all right. I can't see the chat now that I've got that up. Did I try the Mantis? Asks Christo. I tried it at Bristronica and it really wasn't working. There was something about it that was very, very wrong. I can tell you. Yeah. Well, I worked in TurnKey for about 10 years. Well, 96 to 2005, I think it was. And so that's a little picture of me doing that. How's best to do this, do I think? Should I go forward and backwards? Should I try that? Oh, look, there's another picture of me. That's outside the Pillar of Hercules, which is where we would drink most of the time. Which was cool. It's sort of like back in the days when you're working in a shop on the shop floor, it's all about the people that you're with, really. And I had, for the most part, a fantastic time. I had a miserable time to some degree with how hard the job was, how hard it was to talk to people constantly, day in, day out, on your feet. Not a single time would you ever sit down unless you sat on the pavement outside having a cigarette. Other than that, you were on the go the whole time, and it was hard. But at the same time, there were some great people, some marvellous people that I met during that time. And the socialising aspect was absolutely vital to that sort of work. And that is the thing perhaps that I miss the most from having this thing, my own thing, my own Molten Music Technology thing, is that I have no colleagues. I have no one to shoot the shit with, you know, to have a beer with after work. And that's a shame, but at the same time, it's enabled me and our family to exist in the way that we do, and that has its own benefits. I'm just saying that some things are lost while some things are gained, I suppose. So, how do I do that? Okay, so you're getting kind of doesn't matter. None of it matters. Oh, look, there's another one of me at TurnKey, because there you go. That's me. Singing in the TurnKey band that we played at the Christmas parties. Yeah, that's me all over, that is. Or was at that time. That's Dave, and there's Stefan. Now Stefan over here on the left, I think he's a Green Party candidate for like a proper district, like he's going into Parliament and stuff. This guy here. Dave, on the other hand, he's top producer, and he lives up in Scotland somewhere in the middle of nowhere, in a beautiful, beautiful place that he takes lots of beautiful pictures of. That's all I can remember of that from that crew. I can't see the chat at this point, so you might be screaming at me for something rubbish, but I'm just going to keep going for the minute. So I worked at TurnKey. From TurnKey, that turned into this, which is Carillon. That's a terrible picture. I've only got some really low res pictures. So while I was there, essentially I was employed at TurnKey as a PC product specialist, because they had some Apple product specialists, and this was 1996, I think. And so I turned up as a PC product specialist, because I was one of the few people in the world with a computer, with a PC, that was trying to make music on Windows 95, I suppose it was at the time. And so I turned up and sort of started selling little bits of software, MIDI interfaces, audio interfaces, sound cards and stuff to people on the shop floor. Talked about DAWs and Cubase, which then became Cubase VST, and then Logic, but then Logic disappeared into Apple, and then Cakewalk, all these sorts of things I would talk about daily. And there came a point where we sort of realized that we were doing a heck of a lot of tech support. I was doing an enormous amount of technical support. So people would come in, they'd buy a sound card, they'd take it home, couldn't get it to work. They'd buy Cubase, take it home, couldn't get it to work. All that kind of thing. And I would be constantly talking them through all sorts of things over the phone in order to get their stuff working on their crappy home computer. And so we came to the conclusion that there has to be a better way. And perhaps, like there is in Apple, because we would make Apple systems. In fact, we would also make RISC systems for Sibelius at TurnKey. We would be making computer systems for studios, and the tech support when you did that was far, far lower than when you sold just a piece of software or a piece of audio equipment. And so we thought, well, maybe we could build our own PCs. So we started doing that, and it was just a disaster, because what we didn't really understand initially was that computers are not the same. So when we were thinking about doing this, sort of the buyer, Dave, I think it was, the buyer for TurnKey would just source 10 computers. So we'd source 10 PCs, beige box PCs, and they would turn up, and I'd install Cubase on them, and you'd install a sound card, and the whole thing would just not be in time, and it'd be all out of whack, and it would fall over, and you sort of just about tune it enough to get it to sort of work, and then you give it to the customer, and then it wouldn't work. It would come back. So we had this difficulty where we began this journey of understanding that not all PCs are the same, that motherboards are different, the chipsets are different, that some things just are not suitable for running low latency audio on. And so in the space of about a year of wondering about this and trying to work it out and doing all the nightmare tech support all over it, we decided that what we needed to do was build a purpose-built computer where we had control over every single component. And that's what we did. And we created Carillon audio systems. We had this amazing case built out in China, which was just extraordinary. The look and feel of it was brilliant. We built in noise reduction. We sourced quiet components. We stuffed hard drives inside foam blocks and got these special fans. This is for 386 computers, the first run. And we were able to launch this range of computers, which was unprecedented, absolutely extraordinary. We did it in glossy brochures. It had black screens, black edges of screens rather than beige. It was just fantastic. And for a few years there, it was flipping awesome. We did a fantastic job. And I learned an enormous amount. I mean, I had built my own computer previously to coming onto this job, so I had a bit of knowledge. But when you didn't really have the internet to lean into as much as you do now, we were making it up, and we were testing and retesting in order to find which bits actually worked. And then put it together, made it quiet, put it in a gorgeous box, and sold it. And we sold tons of them, and it was really good for a good few years. It kind of Well, it fell apart because TurnKey fell apart ultimately. TurnKey Media Tools. Johnny, sadly, the founder of the place, he died unexpectedly, and the family didn't want to keep the firm on, so it was bought by another company who were all right, but it was never quite the same, and so I decided to move on and leave it behind. So that if you like was the genesis of my building computers. Was absolutely forged in Carillon, Carillon Audio Systems, where, I felt, I think quite reasonably, that I was an absolute bleeding expert. I mean, we were. There's a handful of us who were doing it all the time, who were there from the beginning, and we flipping knew everything. We really did. We could do Windows. We could do audio systems. We understood all of the stuff. I mean, we were talking to Intel. We were talking to AMD at various times about how to tailor their system towards what we needed. We were absolutely on the game. In that time, I also wrote a couple of books about computer music, where helping people make music on their computers, trying to share that knowledge. I'd published lists of tweaks on how to get your Windows system to work. And one of the things I remember distinctly, a few years later, when in Molten Music Technology, I was talking to Microsoft, and one of the programmers I was talking to there was a guy who works on the audio stack. And he told me that, he said that he used my list of tweaks to tweak his own studio computer. And this is the guy who writes the drivers for Windows. I was like, so, I did good work. I felt I did good work. So that was that. But when I left Carillon, I had big plans of becoming a rock star, of course, which is what you do when you leave a music shop. You either start a studio or you become a rock star. I mean, that's the natural way in, isn't it? Hang on, let me just check the chat before I go on. IRQs. Yeah, exactly. IRQs. Woo. 3-hour therapy session. Yeah, it totally was, Paulie. It totally was. Sound control. Yes, it was all Sound Control's fault. That was their fault. Totally, yeah. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So from that, I went on to become a rock star. But that didn't really work out. Instead, I released a couple of meditation albums. Which was also interesting. But from there, do I have anything to show you on that? I don't think I do. Oh, yeah, no, I had it here. So if I take that, is this important? I don't know. Let's do it. Hey, let's do it. Let's try to make that work. Let's put that in there. Let's put that in there. See if that works. Oh, yeah, look at that. Fantastic. So, so I spent a year or so getting married and trying to make music, that kind of thing. But then, I needed to it turned out that wasn't really going to work particularly quickly. I needed to find a job. And so, one sec. And so, I was contacted by an old friend called Bill Pashik from America, who used to run Carillon USA, because we'd actually launched in the US as well. And he was one of two guys who ran the operation out there. And so we had a bit of a relationship, and he talked about how he'd also moved on from Carillon and was doing his own thing called Rain Computers, or Rain Recording. And so we talked about it, and he ended up setting me up in the UK as a UK branch of Rain Computers, which was brilliant. So I did that for a whole another load of years. Now, this was working out of my bedroom, building computers in my bedroom in our little house in Crystal Palace to start with. And then we moved out here, and I built the shed, and this here was the workshop of building Rain Computers and doing the same thing that Carillon did, but without quite such a flashy case. Kept it a bit more of an off-the-shelf case. As you can see here, there's a review in Sound on Sound of one of the one of the ones that we did. You know, we'd choose nice cases, a bit of branding on the front, that kind of thing, and basically did the same. So continued on for years and years, doing a similar job to Carillon. But I think perhaps, I don't know, it's slightly more personal, because not only was I building the computer, I was also talking to the customers, I was selling to the customers, doing the tech support, building the machine, and that loop, that sort of system, if you like, worked really, really well, because I knew the system that the customer had. I knew it. I knew exactly what was on it. I knew how it was put together. There was no possibility that, oh yeah, that guy who works in Carillon wasn't building it quite as well as I'd hoped it was, or perhaps there wasn't the level of quality control that there could have been. You know, I was absolutely on everything, from the purchasing of the parts to building it to selling it to supporting it. So that really, really worked. And did that for years. And this then led in to what became Molten Music Technology. Now, I have to say a big thank you to Bill out there, because without him reaching out to me, without us putting together Rain Computers, I never would be where I am now, or at least I would have come by a vastly different route. But the support he gave me, the camaraderie that we had over those years was just brilliant, and enabled me to produce a lot of really good computers, on the whole, that are out there doing the job. Now, it sadly sort of came crashing to a bit sort of crash and burned at the end. It all went a bit weird. He either went nuts or something, I don't know. It all went a bit crazy, and we fell out quite massively. And in this turmoil, in this hurricane or tornado of craziness, after speaking to him on the phone on the Friday, by the Monday, I'd set up an entirely new company and was rapidly trying to steal all of the Rain clients over to Molten Music Technology, because it just wasn't going to work. We'd hit a brick wall. It was not going to happen. It was all going a bit pear-shaped, and I had to make a decision as to, what do I do? Do I try to fight with Bill? Do I pay him the money he believes I owe him? Settle up, that kind of thing, or do I just take a decision to strike out by myself? And so I did. I took a decision, or my wife and I took a decision to do this independently. And it was a really good, scary decision. And so 10 years ago, Molten Music Technology was born. Which way should I go? So Molten Music Technology was all about the computers again. It's all about building extraordinary computers, silent computers, hopefully, really nice bits of gear. That there, for instance, is the Pro Tools PC, which I built with Neil Hester. Neil was a colleague from Carillon and from TurnKey, and a real top guy, an incredibly knowledgeable guy. Extraordinary. I mean, he's always looked incredibly fresh-faced and young, but he always knew his stuff just brilliantly. He was such a guy to rely upon. And together we decided to do this Pro Tools PC, because he was doing sort of Pro Tools stuff, bits and pieces, and we thought if we could put together a computer just for Pro Tools, then that would be an awesome thing. And so this is one of the things that actually we were talking about doing this when the Rain Molten thing happened, when the flip over happened. So we were just about to put this Pro Tools PC thing together. And then I started up again as Molten. We had a little bit of a hiccup, and then this is one of the things that that Molten sort of launched with, the idea of this Pro Tools PC. So it was a PC like any other PC, except it was just tweaked entirely for Pro Tools and supported for Pro Tools. So it'd run it brilliantly, whatever audio interface you wanted to run with it, whatever thing you wanted to do. And it was, it was great. And we sold a shed load of those too. Yeah. Went really well. Such a great idea. We could never get Avid to endorse it or to notice it. At one point, they told us to back off because they were suggesting that we might have a problem with using the name, the Pro Tools PC. And so we went, all right, okay, fair enough. We'll just back off. We were just trying to help. We're just trying to get in there like Apple is in there, because they were Avid were recommending these IBM computers that were just completely not suitable at all, and we absolutely could have sorted that out. But hey, never mind. Not going to dwell on all of that sort of business. Oh, look, there's me. I don't think that's important at the moment. Did I have anything else in there in that kind of thing? No, not as such. What year was this? Says Matt Colville. Well, depending on what you're talking about. Talking about 10-year anniversary of Molten, so this is now 10 years ago. I left Carillon in 2005. I think. Could have been, yeah, because I was married in 2005. I think. So, yeah, so that was then, and I did Rain for about 7 or 8 years. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so... And so at Molten, what I did was I built computers. That was great. Now, after a little while, I sort of started the YouTube channel with Rain Recording. I'd done a few YouTube videos on that. And when I started Molten, it was one of the things I wanted to focus on a bit more. So it was definitely one of the ideas was to market multimedia technology through doing YouTube videos on audio interfaces and DAW software and reviews and bits like that. And it took me a little while to get going, but it did get going, and it was good fun, and I started doing that. And one of the things that this enabled me, well, one of the things, I think what really kicked off my YouTubing adventure, if you like, after I'd done a few videos, was the whole idea of the Surface. Now, I've been, obviously, because I'm building computers, I'm following the computer industry very, very, very closely. And I was always on the lookout for a laptop. So we tried doing laptops with Rain. And we did one lot that were complete and utter disaster. Just so difficult, because you source a laptop and you go, great, this one works. You test it, it works. Then you sort of buy half a dozen and they come and they're just slightly different. And suddenly they don't work. They have something in it which is causing glitches and problems. And laptops, you can't change a piece of hardware. You have to go with whatever's in there. And there's absolutely no consistency on what it is that's installed inside a laptop. And so we would run into these problems almost every time. So, I mean, eventually I did do some laptops by buying them from Scan, essentially. And then just, buying the shells and then adding to them a little bit and selling them as Molten. And it was highly unsatisfactory. So, in my looking around for a laptop, I sort of focused on the Microsoft Surface, and I thought, well, that's a brilliant thing, because I was massively into touchscreens. I loved that kind of thing, because it was all over that time where there was that guy who had a big touchscreen. It was all about maps, Google Maps. You're constantly looking into maps and moving maps around, and all that was really cool. And there's all this potential for moving things, for touchscreen, this, that, and the other. And that was all very exciting. We liked all of that, and so the Surface seemed to bring together the idea of a touchscreen, the idea of Windows. It doesn't have to be an iPad. It didn't have to be some other low quality OS which wasn't going to run what you needed. You wanted it to run the proper stuff. And so when the Surface came along, I thought, this is brilliant. This could really, really work. But of course, well, I mean, the first one came along with Windows 8 on it, for heaven's sake. So I think we had to wait for a little while. So it took a little bit of time to what I felt mature enough to work properly. And so I just kept an eye on it. And when the Surface Pro 3 came around, I decided I was going to give it a go. So I splashed cash and bought one and installed a load of stuff and kind of got it to work. And that sort of gave birth to Surface Pro Audio, which is an offshoot of mine, and started a video series on exploring how to make music on the Surface, using touch, using the pen. How creative is that? How interesting is that? How much can I run on it? Is it powerful enough? Because a lot of people, when they talk about making music on a laptop, they want a huge, enormous, essentially a desktop replacement laptop. And that's nice, but it's not very gorgeous. It's not very competing with Apple. I was so pissed off with the Apple guys opening up their MacBook Pros and running Ableton or stuff, and it all just working completely fine. You couldn't really do that on an Asus laptop or an HP laptop. And so I wanted to have that experience, but in a Microsoft environment. And so I started this journey into Surface. This is alongside building computers. And that turned out to be a brilliant thing. It's what got me through my first 10,000 subscribers. It enabled me it raised my profile to the point that I was, as I got the picture up here, I was invited along to Microsoft launch parties over in New York, where we talked about, there's Thavius Beck on there playing on Bitwig and stuff. And it was totally brilliant. It was an exciting time. I was talking to Microsoft engineers. I was talking to them about the possibilities of things like embedding ASIO into Windows, the possibilities of what whether it's called Wasapi is going to mean, how that could work, the possibility of getting into some kind of program where I could make recommendations and they could beta test stuff with me. The possibilities were extraordinary, and it was a very, very exciting time for anyone, I think, with the potential for the Windows OS to be a dominant music making platform. It was there, and then the staff changed. And when the staff changes at places like Microsoft, they suddenly don't know who you are. And so everyone that you were talking to one minute who's very enthusiastic, they suddenly get another job or get moved to another department, and you're left sort of shouting into the darkness going, hello, we were talking about this thing. And they're going, oh, don't know what you're talking about. And it just changes and it moves on, and it all just disappears. So that's a shame. But I have maintained my relationship with the Surface Pro, and I keep on doing it. I've got a Surface Pro 9 sitting here, and I continue to do videos on it because I continue to believe in it as a platform, and it being just a very groovy and creative computer thing. It's not massively powerful. You can outrun it with anything else. That's not really the importance of it. The importance of it is the interface and its sleekness and its niceness. And it was very, very instrumental in bringing in bringing my YouTube channel up, in elevating my level of awareness in the world. And so I've got a lot to thank the Surface for in that regard. And particularly Stuart, who's the guy there. He moved on to do other things in Microsoft, and also he got married, got a dog, got a baby, I think, these days. And he was really nice and friendly to me. Also Pete, who you might know, he's generally around in the audio world. He's working on MIDI 2.0 with Microsoft, and he also was great, was very, very supportive of what I was doing and what I was trying to achieve, which was great. So I'm very thankful to those people for giving me the opportunities that I did get, even if it didn't go quite as far as I'd hoped. I got a lot of opportunities through that, and that was great. In fact, me and Neil went off to a launch party in New York for the little Surface. What was that? Not the Surface Pro, the other Surface, and that was quite funny. But we had a great time out there, even though I felt relatively ill most of the time because I'm a terrible traveller sometimes. But anyway, we had a fantastic time. Went to this great party, and we also met what's his name from StaffPad was there. Oh God, his name just suddenly escapes me. It's not Daniel, is it? I can't remember anyway. Which was great, but they gave us a present at the end, and the present for me was a Surface 2, I think it was, the new Surface, which is great, and I took that away with me. And they gave Neil a scented candle because they kind of assumed he was my partner as opposed to a colleague. So that was hilarious. But anyway, that was a good time. This particular picture here was of the second time we went. This is for the Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book launch, which was very cool. HoloLens as well. I had to go on the HoloLens when I was completely drunk, and that was hilarious and painful, I seem to recall. So that's that stage, I suppose. Oh, look, there's a Surface. There, look, there's a nice picture of me playing with a thing. Beautiful, all of that. Come back to this for a minute. So yeah, so that's that, if you like, is the story of Molten Music Technology computer wise. So building computers, awesome computers, promoting the Surface and doing videos and that sort of stuff. But then things changed. Let me try to bring this story. What time are we on? Yeah. I try to round this story out. In that the market, I think, for computers just seemed to die. It just dried up relatively quickly. I mean, one of the problems, I think, was that I never really made any money as Molten. I did as Rain. For a while during Rain, I was actually paying myself a salary. But then we hit, I think it was the 2008 financial crisis, and like the phone just stopped ringing, because we had phones that rang in those days. And that was for months. And the whole thing just kind of almost fell apart, but we just about held it together. But from that point, I never really paid myself. I sort of paid myself like less than minimum wage, just a little bit, just enough to get through some bills. And my wife had gone back to work at that point after maternity. And so, we were all right. But it ended up being years and years and years that I just wasn't paying myself anything, hardly. And it was not sustainable. We went on for as long as we could. But I had to come to a point where it's like, I am turning over a large amount of money. There's a lot of money coming through because these are expensive items. But I could never hang on to enough of it to pay myself a decent wage. It's this crazy thing where when you've got the parts and you've got the storage and you've got the bills and you've got the marketing and you've got returns and repairs and the cost of all of that, unless I added on a huge amount of money to the price of every system, it just was not going to work. So I had to decide whether to bump up my prices so I was far more expensive than Scan or someone else you could buy computers from, or to knock it on the head, really. So I went through quite a while of trying to reason that one out. Because I mean, realistically, I needed to sell like 2 systems a week, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be a lot. It can be a lot. And the difficulty is that if you're not selling a lot of systems, then everything gets more expensive, and you end up being left with stuff that's expensive. There can be suddenly a new motherboard come out, and you are obsolete immediately, and you are trying to sell through on stock that nobody actually wants because they want the next fastest thing. So it was really, really difficult. And so I came to a point, I think 2016. Is that right? After about 5 years? No, after a few years. I don't know. Somewhere in the middle. Anyway, business started getting really, really slow. So I had to look for other things. And it was at this point that I started doing a bit more writing. Did some writing for Sound on Sound. And that was good. That felt really good. And then along came Gearnews. Now, Gearnews, as you may know, is this website here. News website. Oh, you can't see that because I'm on the wrong thing now. It was, what was it? Is it that one? Yeah. So Gearnews came along just at the right time, essentially. And a guy called Ralph, who I'd known from TurnKey, not that he worked at TurnKey, he was a rep for, can't exactly remember what for, but he was always working in the music instrument industry. And I think it was through Rupert, who was my old boss at TurnKey. Thanks, Rupert. He put me in touch with Ralph, and Ralph invited me to write for Gearnews. Now, I absolutely assumed that I would be writing about software, synths, doors, audio interfaces, MIDI interfaces, that kind of thing. And Ralph says, no, I'd like you to write about synths. Oh, right. Because we'd had a few beers and I'd been talking a lot about synths for some reason. And so had he. He's a bit of an enthusiast, and we shared a bit of a history over the synthesizers that we'd enjoyed. And so what he wanted me to do was write about synths. And that would take me a bit by surprise because I hadn't looked at hardware synths for a long time. I mean, back in TurnKey, I was the guy who had to look after the shop floor synthesizers. So, get them working again, repair them, get the headphones working, make sure the sounds were working, demo them to people, that kind of thing. And at that time, It was things like the Quasimodo Raven, it was the Triton, or the Trinity, one or the other, Prophecy, crappy Roland things. Don't even remember. Oh, well, no, we had the JD800, I think. Oh, and the 8080. Oh, and the CS1X, all that kind of thing. And every now and again, you'd do the Roland wavy groove box, or you'd show off an SR16. You'd sell a 4-track Porta Studio, or a mini disc one, or a VS880. Anyway, heady times. What am I talking about? Yeah, so anyway, so I was invited to write about synthesizers for Gearnews, and I will be forever in debt to Ralph, who gave me this opportunity, and also to Angus, who looked after us as the editor in the early days. But it was an amazing opportunity, and it really, really worked. And suddenly I found myself writing news articles every day, pretty much, and that became it became a living. It became a salary. It's actually enough, and I could find myself transitioning from building computers into actually writing full time, and suddenly I was making far more money than I ever made building computers, and all I had to do was sit and write some news. I was no longer spending my days with my head inside a hot, heavy computer trying to connect things together and plugging things in and getting them to work and installing stuff, and then trying to wrestle with software and trying to understand the new hardware updates and to wrestle with audio interfaces and the way they configure, and then being on the phone to somebody and then ordering stuff, getting stuff in, signing all that in, signing repairs out, buying other stuff, bringing that in, managing the inventory, dealing with flipping couriers who would always trash your stuff, and trying to invent new and important ways to pack a computer so that it would survive a journey in the back of a van. All of that stuff you could put to one side, for which I was getting paid absolutely nothing, and I could just write a little bit of news and make a living. Just brilliant. Just brilliant. So that transition happened. I mean, eventually Molten was almost sunk in the last moment, because I was, the computer sales were drying up, and I sold this one to, I think, Norway, whatever it is, country in Europe that has its own complete tax system, that's nothing to do with anybody else's tax system. I think it was Norway. And the guy bought a very expensive computer, about $4,000 worth of computer. So I built it, I was about to ship it, and the guy suddenly realized that he would have to pay tax on it going into his country. He thought he'd paid tax here, when, I'd stated to him on the invoice, this is ex VAT, you have to give me your tax ID number because we're sending it to this particular country, and that's all going to be on it, and you'll have to sort out your own tax when it gets there. So I had explained all of this, but he hadn't quite cottoned on, and so he just cancelled his order. And I was left with this massive, expensive computer that was full of parts that I was unlikely to be able to sell. And because I built it, it was no longer as new, and it really could have sunk us, because I had no other orders with which to move these parts through. You know what I mean? So that was the point at which I just had to close down the computer building side. And since then, I've just kind of been, because, sometimes I sold 3-year warranties, and so there's still been a bit of tech support I've had to do over time to try to get past that 3 years, which I'm now finally past. But, Gearnews was there, and they sorted me out, and that's been a lot of fun for a lot of years now. It's a bit different now. It's not the focus of what I do anymore, because they've changed, and they no longer actually want me to do the stuff that I used to do. They're interested in doing other things, and that's cool. And there's people there who write for Gearnews brilliantly and keep it plopping along. But it's less. There's bits of it that I enjoy doing, I like doing, and I'm happy to do that. But it can no longer be my focus. And that's okay, because I've got other things that I'm focusing on. But as I say, I'm very grateful to Ralph and to Rupert for pointing me in that direction, and to Angus out there for being our editor for a long time. That was great, and I hope it will continue. Let me pause there for a moment. Hi, Atomic Sounds. Yeah, Paulie, I noticed that. That's great. I wish you all the best with those articles. It always felt like Sonic State had room for doing more than it does. But, it's this whole thing of being a one-person operation that you can't do everything, So I think it's great. I think it's great that you're writing for Sonic State. I think it's going to do all of you really good. Because, you have, Nick has such a platform that, there's loads and loads of potential there, I think. As a music news writer, do you ever find the stuff you write influencing the discussion online? Yeah, Matt, I do. Oh, I used to, because I don't write the quite so much immediate news. I mean, what I loved about Gearnews, in the earlier days, was that we were encouraged to write about everything and to be really opinionated, which suited me to the ground, So I could write about Behringer and I could absolutely lay into what I felt and thought about that. Or I could write about Moog or a software synth. So I could write about Bookler. I could write about anything which was coming up and share, almost like a mini review of everything that I was doing. But also you could lay into the marketing, the way people perceive things. Nothing was off the table. You'd be as controversial as you like. And that was thrilling for a good while. And there was, I think there was a lot of discussion came out of that. And also a lot of aggro too, So, and that was always interesting. That was always interesting. And things did spin around that. I mean, less so now, I have to say, because we're not quite so much directly on the news, as it were. But at the time, it was quite unique because most other news websites really just reprint press releases. And that's really boring. I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in doing that. And I think, if anything, we were the first website to really have a voice, I think. And that was cool, and I think that was valuable, and I think other websites have kind of followed suit and have put more personality into their websites. And I think that's a really positive thing, particularly in this age of AI, because if you're just reprinting a press release, then why even bother? I mean, let the AI do that. You don't even need someone with any knowledge at all, So I think in order to justify your existence or to maintain some kind of authenticity to what you're writing about, you have to have a voice. You have to put in a personality and a character into that. Otherwise, there's no point to it. It's just trying to attract views for clicks, and I find that just very boring. So yeah, I mean, I have tried to create my own news channel on Molten Music Technology. I did that for a bit when Gearnews sort of changed and shifted towards more magazine articles. I sort of tried to do the news thing, but it's just a lot of work when it's not paying anything. I mean, writing for Gearnews, I was getting paid, so that was fantastic. That's the perfect situation. Writing for myself, I'm not unless I'm getting thousands and thousands of views, which I can somehow monetize in advertising sort of ways. But when you're not, it's just a lot of work, and I need to be doing things that actually make money. So while I think I can do that and I'm good at that, I'm not able to. It's just not viable, sadly. But it's interesting also how, since I've backed off from the news, I absolutely lose touch quite quickly. And when I come round to my Molten Music monthlies, I'm actually sitting there going, I have no idea what came out this month. Whereas when I was in the thick of it with Gearnews a couple of years ago, I could read them off the top of my head, no problem. So it's quite interesting how you lose that connection unless you're really baked into it. And I feel slightly more aloof these days. But that's okay. That's okay, because I can't see another way through it. If someone would pay me to write the news every day, then that would be different. But I don't sadly have the time. So that was Gearnews. I'd also like to thank David out at Sound on Sound for taking me on as well, and Chris too. I do a couple of things for Sound on Sound magazine. It's always brilliant to write for Sound on Sound. I mean, they don't pay the best, I should say. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, thinking I must have been writing for them now for a decade or something, and the rate, that's right, the writing rate hasn't changed, and I don't think it will. But there we go. But it's an absolute honour to work for Sound on Sound. And David Glasper, my editor, is superb, and he keeps feeding me stuff. And I absolutely don't mind writing about little audio interfaces or little media interfaces, bits and pieces. It's great. It's really good, and it feels like it's the perfect perfect way of reviewing something, because YouTubers talk about it a lot in how your bias and whether you're being given a piece of gear or whether somebody's paying you or whether it's paid promotion, this, that and the other, and how that's like a bit of a can of worms when dealing with reviews online. With Sound on Sound, it's perfect. They source the gear, they send it to me, I review it, they pay me, the piece of gear goes back. So at no point am I influenced by the manufacturer. Sometimes I have the opportunity to talk to the manufacturer if there's a problem or not quite understanding something, which is great. But I'm able, in that situation, to give the most honest view of the thing I'm looking at, because the manufacturer has absolutely no influence on what's going on. Now, people say, oh yeah, but they're advertising in the magazine and so therefore they get a good review. That's just bollocks. It's not the case. I have nothing to do with the advertising department. They're not talking to me. They're not asking me anything. The only bias involved in all this is the bias that I naturally have to want to show a product in a good light, because there's very little to be gained in slagging a product off. I mean, generally speaking, the unwritten rule, I imagine, at Sound on Sound, is that if it's terrible, then we won't print it. They've got no interest in rubbishing a product or telling people that a product is terrible. They'd much rather talk to the manufacturer and say, look, we've got lots of problems with this and this is why, maybe you need to rethink it and we'll let it go. Thanks very much. That's actually, I think, more constructive than printing something which just slags something off. So we don't do that. So what you read in Sound on Sound is generally optimistic, because we're looking at products which we think are pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean you don't point out the flaws. You absolutely do that. But you're not going to be looking at not going to be reviewing something which is 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. You want things which are 6 out of 10 plus, I think is probably going to pass the thing. Because gear is mostly good. Mostly. And, that's kind of what we're interested in looking at, I think. So sorry, Matt asks, what's your YouTube feed like? Is it a lot of synth YouTubers? Or are you like, no, I am a synth YouTuber and I don't want to watch them? No, it is a lot of synth YouTubers, a lot of manufacturers, because I am still interested in the news. A lot of political stuff, funnily enough. Super Tan and other bits and pieces. But no, there's a few that I like. I really like Emily the Harp Lady. Her videos, I think, are superb. I really like, who do I really like? I mean, Div Kid, of course, his stuff comes up, Mylar, Jeremy, Red Means Recording, Ben Jordan, all those sorts of stuff I enjoy watching, in my own leisure time. I do. Venus Theory as well, Cinematic Laboratories, is it? I always enjoy those videos. So yeah, when were you on stage with Microsoft? Asked Aquatic Cape. That was 2015, I think. That was the Surface Pro 4 launch. Up on stage, it was they also had the fitness band, which I thought was really cool. I mean, they had the Lumia phones, which were just amazing. I was a Lumia phone right from the beginning. I loved the Windows Phone, fantastic platform, and the HoloLens, which they're still trying to kick around with. That was back then. Where did I get to? Oh yeah, talking about writing. The other thing I write for, which you may not know this, I've still got that up on there, is Careers in Music. Now I write most of the gear and software page. Now Careers in Music is an American website. They got in touch with me years and years and years ago, and I essentially write all of these articles for them. They're great. It's good. It's just a little place where I'm able to do. They're essentially best of listicles, but they're ones in which I really try as hard as I can to find the right selection of products to put on it. There's no affiliate links. There's no pressure to write a particular product from anything. It's all just kind of what I think is the best, this, that, and the other. Yeah, it's cool. Let's say I've been doing it for a long time. And I mean, it is all about views and links and clicks and stuff. That's kind of what it's about. And what they do is they recommend careers for people in music and bits and pieces. But it's good. So like the best VST instruments, for instance. Here I am. This has had like 26,000 views, which is pretty cool. And I updated it this month. And it's got, la-di-da. They always have the top 8 of something or other. So I write a few paragraphs about each one. Ooh. And then it asks you to try to do a thing. So that's something else. So Richard over at Careers in Music has been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I really appreciate, Richard, I really appreciate you and your awesomeness and your vibe in getting this Careers in Music thing doing, and the trust that you put in me to leave me essentially in charge of this entire section of your website in getting that going. So that's been a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. So that's most of what I do now. So now these days I do Gearnews, I do Sound on Sound, and I do Careers in Music. They're my 3 main writing jobs. And then outside of that, I do a bit of writing for Perfect Circuit now, of course. Bryce over in Perfect Circuit has been feeding me articles that I don't ever find enough quite time to do. And other than that, I'm doing my own reviews and videos on YouTube. And here we are talking about that kind of thing. So that's where Molten Music Technology is now, I think. Let me put myself back up. Where do I go? Over here. That one. Yeah, so I mean, by all means, if you've got any questions about any of that, I'll happily... Oh, Ken, have you got my book? Oh, God bless you. Yeah. You should send it in and I'll sign it for you. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, PC Music The Easy Guide. That was me. Do I have a... No, I don't. Oh, I thought I'd have it on the shelf here. No, I've only got a copy of Microsoft Office. Who has a copy of Microsoft Office, for heaven's sake? No, I don't know where they are. Well, that's lovely, Ken. I'm really, really impressed by that. So yeah, so the day job writing, that's all working out nicely. That's doing a thing, and its only problem is that it takes me away from making videos, which is the thing that I like to do more. I like to do that. I mean, I've taken the decision so far not to take money for videos. Nobody pays me to make videos, which I think for someone of my level of subscribers is perhaps unusual. But the main reason for that is that... Yeah, no, Greg, you're welcome to turn up at Synths. I would sign them. That's no problem. What was I saying? Yeah, no, making videos, yeah. So yeah, I don't take money for it. I mean, people send me gear, these things. I know that Wavephonics have sent me this in the hope that I'd make a video on it, and I absolutely intend to, whenever it is I can find the flipping time to fit it in, because I'm keen to make videos, like to make videos, enjoy thoroughly making videos about all the bits of gear that people send me. But there's no payment in any of that. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. If I need to give any reasons, I don't know that I do. On the one hand, it's that there's something that doesn't feel quite right to me about it. Now, plenty of other people do, and there's absolutely no problem with that. And you absolutely, if you're trying to make a living doing something, you should get paid, and no question at all. But from my point of view, where I believe what I like to do is to do a review. So I want to share an opinion. I don't just want to demo a product because that's a different thing. It's like with, I mean, you know, the two that spring to mind are DivKid and Mylar, and both of them do superb demonstrations of products, and people pay them to do that, and quite rightly so. That's how it should be. I, however, for whatever twisted narcissistic reason within me, is that I want to review things. I want to give an opinion. I want to give, you know, light and shade about a product. I also, you know, I want to show how it works, but I also really want to voice something about it. And I feel I can only do that authentically if either a third party is paying me, like Sound on Sound does, or I'm not getting paid at all. Now, people will say, well, they've given you the product and that's payment. Yeah, sure. But it's not the same. It doesn't pay your bills, you know. Having this here is of no use to me whatsoever. It's not putting bread on the table. It's not paying my mortgage. It's just there, you know. So from my point of view, just speaking purely for me, is that I don't like to take money for videos. I have tried it in the past, and it didn't work for me. I felt it was just completely wrong. It was not the right fit for me, maybe for my personality or the way I just like to exist. Who knows? It just did not work, to the point that it stressed me out so much I almost had a bit of a breakdown, I think. So it's like I've kind of made an internal decision that I'm not going to take money for videos. And so like on the one hand, that makes me feel more authentic. On the other, it means that I'm not obligated to do anything for anybody. So if you've sent me a module in the hope of me making a video, I will absolutely intend to do that. But also, I'm not going to feel obligated to do that. And I'm sorry about that sometimes. I'm sorry that I've had some things for a long time that I've not made a video on. And it's not because I don't want to. It's purely that I only have so much space in my life, because I am also doing a day job of writing, because I'm not making any money on the videos. Do make a little bit of money. Oh yeah, I mean, that's something we could do. How much time have we got? Because I want to do some music. Okay, a little bit of time. I could show you, potentially, how YouTube works. Where was that? Here. I could go here. We could just have a quick look at the YouTube stats. I mean, that might be interesting, you know, for the whole time. Analytics, there we go. That'd be interesting. Who knows? Let's have a look, and you know, you can see how much money I don't make. That might be interesting. What was I thinking? Yeah, I mean, the thing, I don't want to make out that I'm some kind of saint, or I'm so much more authentic than other reviewers. I don't think that's it. Don't take from this that that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to, a lot of this about YouTubing, and you might have heard from many other people, are forever moaning on about their mental health and how draining it all is. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing because you're putting your opinion out there, and you're putting yourself forward for criticism and for people shooting you down in your opinion on something, or how accurate you're being, or how clever you're being. You're setting yourself up for criticism, and that can be hard on your brain. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that in order for me to maintain an optimistic outlook on life, I have to sort of believe in what I'm doing. And if I'm feeling that I'm not doing it right, if it's not working in the way that makes me happy, then I just don't want to do it. So I'd much rather do reviews on stuff where I'm not obligated to produce anything, where I can say whatever I like. I'm not feeling that someone is going to be upset with me. That works better for my state of mind than any other way that I found. Does that make sense? So I don't feel like I'm elevating myself. I'm not more authentic than somebody else. It's just the way that it works for me without me going completely out of my mind. So yeah, let's have a quick look at the stats just for fun. You might not find this interesting. Who knows? So this is, for instance, it gives me the last 28 days, so the last month's worth of views. What does it mean? I don't know. But roughly speaking, my revenue is around about £300 a month. 300 whole pounds. 50,000 subscribers. Isn't that awesome? I mean, it's something, but the weird thing is it's been about that for years. It's been about the same for years and years. So even though the subscriber count goes up, the actual amount of views doesn't necessarily. You know, you're just sort of getting through the same amount of people all the time, so you end up with roughly the same revenue. So even though YouTube has built in more and more ways for them to make money, it doesn't seem to translate very much to what I get. So let's look at this over a longer period of time. Okay, lifetime. So what are we actually looking at? You know, I'm not sure. But look, I've got nearly 7 million views. I mean, that's quite something. That's quite something. And over the course of 10 years this has been running, I've made over 18 grand. Is that right? Yeah. No? Is it right? Yeah, no, that's about right. If I'm doing £300 a month, then yeah, I am now, but it wasn't always. Okay, no, that sounds about right. So my top videos are the Complete Control S49 Mark II. For some reason, everyone loves that one. That's had more views than everybody else, and most people watch it for almost 9 minutes. That's amazing. Totally amazing. The Propeller Heads Reason 8, massive video for some reason. iRig Stream has been one of my biggest videos. That was a particularly good, well-timed, right in the middle of the pandemic when everyone was trying to live stream. That was a great little video. So, I mean, it's interesting how all of these are MIDI controllers and bits of software. None of it is anything to do with Modular. There's Surface stuff there, look. More MIDI controllers. Then finally, my biggest synth video is the one I did at Thomann, Behringer Crave versus the Microfreak. But, you know, there's almost 10 times, no, 4 times as many. But then you've also got to factor in the time. I mean, that was 2017. Stop doing that. So what I'm saying is I'm never making the videos on the things I should be making. I should be making videos on the surface, on software. I mean, for instance, the review I did on the Moog Mariana the other week has got like 5 times as many views as most of my videos get. You know, straight away, because software is much more mass market. This stuff isn't. This is terribly niche, terribly niche. So I'm absolutely not doing the right thing to attract the most subscribers. But it's what makes me happy, man. It's what makes me happy, ultimately. So what else could we show? The audience, I suppose, would be most interesting. So let's have a look at that. Oh, why has it gone a bit weird? I don't really know. I don't know. Apparently people who watch me watch Cuckoo and Ben Jordan and Sonic State and Bo Beats and Orgy of Pills. That's interesting. Unique viewers? Does that make sense? Subscribers. Oh. I don't know. I never look at this stuff. Does anybody look at this stuff? Is it any of it interesting? It's so interesting it's not even going to come up. I don't know why it has blocks in the middle of it. I was hoping to see a nice line of something useful, but it's not happening. What have I looked at in the past? Subscribers. But I kind of want. I'm going to go back to here. There we go. That one. No, that's not really what I want. Is it what I want? Top content. Oh, I'm back in here again. Oh, I don't know what any of this means. I'm being completely useless. Daily, yearly. Ooh, there's a graph. No, I don't know. Anyway, so that was fun. So I hope that's been incredibly enlightening. But they seem to have recently changed the analytics, so I no longer can see the sort of things that I thought were helpful. there you go. That's all I wanted, just to show you the growth. Can we expand that a little bit? Oh no, we can make it smaller. That's great. Last 28 days, lifetime. Well, that piddling little line there from 2013 up to now just shows you kind of how steady that is. I mean, one imagines that as you grow a channel, it starts to go exponential and you get more and more because more people are sharing, more people are subscribing, it comes up in more places. But no, it's been as flat. It's the same steady line over 10 years of squeaking its way there. That's just hilarious, really. Anyway, enough of that. Right, I think that's probably enough. Any questions about that? Were there things I was... Just let me just go through my list of thanks. I didn't thank anywhere near as many people as I'd hoped. Yeah, along with Bill, I'd like to thank Keith and Kevin out at Rain Computers, who were extraordinary. And it was great meeting Kevin at the Microsoft party. I went with him to that over in New York. That was fantastic. That was a really great time. Thanks for that, Kevin. Did that. Yeah. No, I think that's plenty. I mean, yeah. There's other things I can talk about at another time. That's fine. So let me bring the chat back up. So there we go. I mean, that might have been interesting to who knows, talking about stuff. I'm going to get on to making some music in a minute. Any other thoughts, please throw them in right now. Right now. I guess what I hope going forward is, my perpetual hope is that I can do more videos than writing, really. But it's hard until I'm making more money. Until it makes more money, I can't, which brings me back to that situation. Well, then you should ask for payment, because then you can make videos. But then I'll be making videos about products that people have paid me for, rather than videos about products that I feel I really want to make a video on. Although I also feel obligated to make videos because somebody sent me the thing to make the video on, Oh, it goes round in circles. It really does. Where did the idea of the name Molten come from? Asked Dilip Funbar. Well, I can tell you that. The idea of Molten came from this. Which is this. So this was my Molten was my, or is the name of one of my musical expressions, which is called Molten Meditation. It's when I left TurnKey, when I left Carillon Audio Systems and decided to make some music, I made it under the name Molten Meditation, because I ended up, once I worked out I couldn't really write rock music, and started making electronic ambient music, which I was really, really enjoying, and kind of discovered that sort of music could be really transformational in a way that I hadn't really explored before. I felt that it was going to become very much a spiritual expression, an expression of my own spirituality. And so I started looking into that in a lot of depth, what meditation meant. Is there a meditative tradition, a contemplative tradition in Christianity, which is the religion I find myself in? And within that, I found some work by Spurgeon, who is an old, or was it Sturgeon? No, it's Spurgeon, who is an old theologian. And he talked about how people's hearts being turned into molten lead through meditation on scripture. And I found that totally fascinating. And so I liked that idea, that transformation of stuff, transformation of your heart, the way that music can transform your state of mind, the way you feel about things. And that was what I was going for. So I did it in an overtly spiritual way. I threaded through scripture, verses from the Bible that I really liked, and created this this thing which I then put on at festivals and did in workshops and bits and pieces. People would come and they would lay on the floor, and I would do this music and I would read scripture through it. And I had this woman Hannah who would help me with that. She would sing sometimes, or she would speak, and while I did the music. And it developed over quite a few years, and was pretty brilliant. And so that was already a thing. I was already doing that, and already a thing. And so when it came to create my own company, it was a word that I was very familiar and happy with, and it fitted really well with music, Molten music. I felt like there was some synergy there, that was an excellent thing. So yeah, that's where the name came from. And yeah, you can go to this website, moltenmeditation.com, and buy a CD, and I will personally post it out to you. Although you'll also find it on Spotify. All of this stuff is on Spotify. I'm not doing Spotify anymore for anything new. I'm just going to be doing Bandcamp or something similar. But all of this stuff is there, because I do have like half a dozen listeners who listen to it, which is great. So I'm not going to take it from them. I think that's a thing. But it was good. Yeah, there's how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4 albums. There you go. Last time I looked at that was 2014. Yeah, bet you're glad you're asked now. Yeah, what about a reboot? Yes, indeed. I mean, I absolutely have plans for that. The first thing I want to do is I did an album sort of at the end, which was called Without Words. So it was like all my favourite ones. Well, almost. I'd lost some of the projects that I made some of the music with, which just drives me nuts, but it's just one of those things. But I pulled sort of instrumental versions out of my favourites and put together an album that had more tracks on it, because the thing with the meditations is they're all about 12-15 minutes long, so you can only get 4 or 5 on an album, which was a disaster for Amazon Music, because they would charge 69p, I think it was, for an individual track, and then charge a tenner for the album. So you could buy the 5 tracks for like £3, or you could buy the album for a tenner. Didn't make any sense. Anyway, there's no nuance in online streaming. So anyway, I did this Without Words album, which was more like sort of 4 or 5 minute mixes of all my favourite ones without any words in it, just the music. And it was a beautiful, really, really nice. And it kind of represents to me my pinnacle of software based music writing, because it was all done on soft synths and on the computer and stuff. And what I would like to do is re-release that after running it through the reel-to-reel. So running it through that, running it back to the computer, just to give it that tape flavour. And also because the levels on it are so, because I mastered it myself, I have no clue what I'm doing, and the levels on it are really low. So I'd like to bring it up and release that. So that's what I want to do first, because that's not going to take too much time. It's just going to take a day, really, of going to and fro and making sure that works. And then, yeah, I fully intend to release more music down that sort of avenue, if you like. So, Miles, I hope I answered your question. What do I think about the future of music making on Windows? Has everyone just switched to Mac long ago? No, not in the slightest. No, gracious no. No, the opposite, I would say. There's always been so many more PCs out there than Apple's. It's only the real knobs it's only the real heads, I mean, who use Apple. Plenty of people do. That's fine. Far more people have PCs and use them for music. So Windows is a top platform for music. Always has been. There are areas of the industry that are a little bit exclusively Apple. But, we can't help that. Some people are just have narrow vision where it comes to these things. I think the level of deference that people give to Apple is really not unnecessary, just slightly weird, out of proportion to what it is that Apple actually offer. The amount of trouble that you hear from Apple users, when they have an OS update or something else that happens, or Apple just removes a port and things no longer work anymore. No end of trouble that Apple put you through, but you stick to it. Stick to it consistently and always. It's crazy. They could do whatever they liked, and you would still stick with it. Whereas, Windows is very much more an open platform. It works with all sorts of things, legacy going back decades. You can run all sorts of stuff on it. And it works. It's far cheaper, far more powerful, Yeah, no, I've never had a Mac either. Hey, look, there's a guy on Twitch. I have from time to time looked at Android. I don't have an Android phone. I actually have an iPhone. It's the one Apple product that I think is awesome. I have looked into Linux a couple of times, all that kind of thing. I don't really have the time for it at the minute, so it's not something I'm going to be looking into in any shape. Linux is the future? Yeah. They've been saying that for 30 years. It has to be mass market. It has to be easy. Simple as that. If it's not easy, if you've got to create a distro, you've got to do command line stuff, no one's interested. Only people who are really interested, and that's very much a niche group. Right, I should move to making some music. I really should. What are my views on AI music creation? Yeah, sure. I mean, knock yourself out. Can I give a more nuanced response to that? I think there's a lot of mediocre music out there, and all AI is going to do is add to the a huge pile of mediocre music. And it doesn't do any harm or any good because we're already awash with that stuff. Is it going to make it more difficult to find the good stuff? I don't know. I mean, I still tend to rely on the usual channels of, I buy music of people that I know. People that I've met tend to buy their music. Or something that's recommended to me by other people. Or through Bandcamp or something like that. I very rarely, I go to Spotify for nostalgia, or if I'm trying to find something I need to be able to learn to play, because I know it's going to be on there. I think for new music, for me, it's unchanged. I don't see, unless an AI is going to come up to me and say, hey, mate, all right, want a beer? You should listen to my music. That doesn't seem very likely. I think it's going to have a bad effect on people who write. I don't mean this in any way nastily, but people who write sort of mediocre music that sits behind adverts, that sits behind films and TV and places like that, people who would normally be paid a license to have their music placed, I think those are more likely going to be the people who will be replaced by AI. And that's a shame, because that's a whole industry, a whole revenue stream for musicians that is going to dry up, I imagine. But so that certainly, I think we will rue the day when we allow these things to happen, but it is happening. So we're just going to have to move on. But for me personally, I'll continue to make music. I'll continue to buy music from people who make music. And hopefully that will continue. Any good campsites near the venue? Cool, it's going to be February, mate. I don't know of any campsites in Norwich, I have to say. There is, you got the whole of the Broads round that way. I don't know. I couldn't really, honestly, I couldn't recommend. So I've never thought of camping next to where I am. I've camped at the beach, if you know what I mean. I've camped on boats on the Broads, but I never camped near Norwich particularly, so I can't help you with that, I'm afraid. Yeah, so I'm going to plug my music in and talk you through that before I run out of steam, I think. Modular versions of my best tracks. Yeah, but I don't know what my best tracks, as in I don't know what they are. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to play my best tracks. I can't replicate them. I've got a few which are still Ableton Live projects, I think, somewhere. But no, I wanted to do something else. I'll definitely do something else. No, I don't know what Mega FM is. Yeah, someone suggests it's good numbers for a Eurorack channel. Yeah, maybe, but that's because, I mean, my numbers are falsified, obviously, because as I say, I made my first 10,000 with Surface videos. So there's a lot of people who come to me for Surface and MIDI interfaces and software, and I'm talking all the time about Modular. So the reason perhaps that my channel hasn't gone a bit more exponential is because I stopped really talking about software for the most part, and I started talking about this niche rubbish that nobody's interested in. Anyway, give us a minute while I just make sure I've got it plugged in. I'm just going to be using this box here, which you can or can't see. I don't know whether you can see it or not. Let me see if I can get some sound out. Hang on. Okay. Did I turn everything down? I might have done. See, I might have faded it out. Or was it down over here? Okay, nothing's coming through. La-di-da. Yeah, no, so that's going in. Did I plug that in right? I did. Oh, I plugged it in. Hang on. Wait for it. Cool, right. That's working. Oh, that's working occasionally. What's going through there? Oh yeah, that thing. I might ignore that bit. That's almost still in tune. Okay, can you hear that all right? Hang on. I don't have all my gear on Modular Grid, but I do have some. But it's changed again. But this was my most recent. I'll just stick that in the chat. It's quiet. Okay. Okay, it's just coming through the mic at the moment, so I'm just going to have to do some jiggery pokery over here to try to get it to come through directly. Is that better? Cheers, Chris. Okay, I'll just tell you what I liked about this patch. Oh, pardon me. And then I'll play with it a bit. I'll turn off my mic and just play with it for a while. See what you think of that. Okay, you can see what you can see. I can't do. I don't have another camera fitted up to do it closer in this. So I'm just going to go with it. I know it's difficult to see. I did try to integrate one of Gaz's things into here, but I wasn't quite understanding exactly how that. Anyway, I'll work on that a little bit more. So there's a couple of things in here that I got right. First of all, I got to understand particles, the Panda particles. Now, the Panda particles is a module that I made some time ago, thinking it was something particular. And so I bought the kit and I built it, did a video on it, started doing the demo thinking this isn't at all what I thought it was in the slightest. I could not work it out and it was driving me nuts. But I think I've got the hang of it now. I think I have. And it sort of is what I thought it was going to be. Let me take out that drone for a moment and just going to focus briefly on the particles, which is right here. I say I don't know how seeable this is, but I don't want to crush anything over there. Can I? Oh, sorry. So brilliant. So particles from Panda is here. I've got this wired up to 3 EXO drum modules, which are 1U, which are stuck hidden away in here, which are brilliant. They're just 808 modules essentially. So I've got a kick, a hi-hat and a snare, and all I've run is some simple Euclidean triggers from Pamela's into particles. Now what particles does, at least I think it does, was my understanding of it, is that it takes those triggers and allows you to mess with them a little bit. So first of all, you've got mute switches, which is actually useful. I usually use a DivKid mutes for running my percussion, but I can now run it in this if I'm going to be going for this full time. So they're all being mixed through my Molten motion meter over here. So I've got 3 channels. And it's very simple. So I've got kick, snare, hi-hat, and then hi-hat open. And I think this is the basic pattern. And what you can do with the Panda is you can push it up, and it will repeat whatever it is triggers that are coming into that channel. So that's its one basic function. So now it's already working harder over here, which is great. But the other thing you can do, you can add in probability with a little bit of a function press. I can push the probability up just to give it a bit more variation. Like if you do it on the hi-hat, for instance. So there's a lot more variation on it. Like so. Now of course this front panel is a bit messed up, but hey. But anyway, that was just a nice thing. So I'm really pleased that I've sort of cracked what this is about. There's more stuff you can do in there. You can move the channels about, so you then swapping all the channels about, so now the hi-hat's going to the kick, you know, things like that, which are quite good ways of creating a variation within your pattern. There's also this thing called absorb, which is like probability, but it only takes out notes that are not defining the loop. That I'm not going to get into. But anyway, so there's that going on. I like that a lot. That was very helpful. So it's very easy to bring something in and then play with it a little bit. The next thing I used was the stochastic inspiration generator, and you may have noticed that I used to have the black sequencer in here for a bit. So I was working with a black sequencer trying to like get a bit more musical into things, but I was just finding that I was having to write every pattern, and that's not really what I want to do. I kind of just want to turn a few things on and let it start to play. And so I thought I would replace the black sequencer with just generative stuff. So I've got a stochastic inspiration generator and the Turing machine, and those two things are running the show really. So here I just turned on like a C and a thing, and I've got this running through the pony over here. Oh, it sounded so much better than that. So what have I done wrong this time? Let me think. Anyway. Oh, that's better. So I started with something simple like that, and then the next thing that I was really pleased with is I'm using the acronym here as a drone underneath. But what was great about it was that I wired it into the gliss and put in 5 notes so I could change the root note. They're not quite in, are they? And then all I had was a little bit of surface from the Turing machine through my new Clockwork Modular, Clockhouse Modular, I can't remember, my little 2 HP quantizer. So yeah, that's out. Let's see if I can tune this together. Seems unlikely, doesn't it? Hang on, sometimes this just ends up driving me to distractions. Let me just try to tune it a little bit. One sec. That's getting there. Okay, that's a bit more like it. So let me, what time is it? Flipping 10 to 10, isn't it? Alright, I'm just going to play with this for a while. I'm going to mute this mic so you're not getting that thing going on. And we'll just sort of see where it goes. It's not very complex, it's just these three things that you can hear. Okay, got it? Good. I have absolutely no idea what that's doing, how that's doing that. No clue. I've been playing with that a little bit and I have no idea. It's a qubit module. So, you know, there's no knowing as to whether that is going to be comprehensible at all. I mean, I was talking into it, blowing into it, nothing was happening. And then I moved away and then it started doing things. And now it's ended up sounding like a beach. That's amazing. Anyway, that'll do. It was slightly better, I think, at the EMOM. Because I tried to structure it a bit better. But that was the basic idea. I thoroughly enjoyed just picking a couple of notes on this, running into the Pony and the Sunless Transistor Cascade filter. Beautiful combination. Really like that a lot. Sometimes I struggle with the Sieg. But then every now and again you just hit on something where you just go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I was after. And that was exactly what I was after. Yes, that was good. And the ability to put in a root note using this was really good. I struggled with the gliss for a long time, and I've worked out that this is actually faulty, and that's really messed me about. But fortunately, I have two. So I've dug out the other one, and that one works exactly how I thought it should have been. And this has been driving me a little bit nuts. Oh, well, there you go. Complicated modules. That's always a problem, isn't it? But essentially all this is doing is giving me 5 notes, little 5-note sequence that I can manually trigger. That's all I want. I just want to be able to change that root note. And I actually only use 3 notes. So there we go. Oh, Steve, thanks, mate. That's very kind. Oh, Alan, thanks, mate. That's very kind of you. I should probably call it a night. Cool, thanks everyone. That's very kind. The mic, this thing here, this is actually from a microkorg. It's a vocoder mic from a microkorg, and just is a brilliant little thing, gooseneck mic, to add to the Bafako instrument interface to get some stuff in. Because I've found with granular things, with the Brinter and with the Mojave, is that sticking in a synth bass line doesn't really seem to do anything. It seems to be pointless, and so you need something else, something more textured, and so my voice seems to be the ideal thing for that. And this just makes that easy. I'm not having to hold a mic, I'm not having to have one strapped to me. It's just there and I can talk into it, and you know, potentially it does stuff. 1 2 1 2, but I've no idea how that works. And I will certainly do a review of the Mojave, I don't know, Mojave. I will do a review, and then hopefully I'll get to the bottom of what the heck it's trying to do. See, and then stuff comes. I don't get it.
I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, potentially it does stuff. And I will.
It's just a weird thing. Oh, Frank, thanks. That's very kind. Thanks, mate. You're very welcome. Yeah, with the endless processor. Yes, exactly the same. It's more interesting if you stick some voice in or something of that nature. Um, Very much so. I haven't tried the Sebsong sampler, but yes, I imagine it's similar. So yeah, I mean, I think that'll do. I think that's enough for tonight. I've had a nice time. It's been nice talking a little bit about Molten and how that came to be, just to get that out there, to share a little bit of the joy and the lack of success of the old YouTubing, but how I very much enjoy that and want to continue doing that for as long as for as much as I can. Coming up then, just to let you know, coming up I have to get a video done of the Bullfrog, the Erika Synths Bullfrog, by the end of the week. So that's what I'm focusing on. I'm also writing a review for Sound on that. So I'm all about the Bullfrog this week, which should include making one of those cards that goes in the top and soldering one or two of those together. So that's quite exciting. So I've absolutely got to do that. I'm supposed to be doing a video on these on these cases from KV Gear. I promised I'd do something on. They're not cases, they're stands. Got those to do. Anything else to hand that I've got? I mean, the other week I was getting a little bit overwhelmed with all the stuff I had to do, so I thought, I know, I'd make a list. So I then spent, lost a morning researching production software, software to help you with making lists of stuff and to help you organize. I kind of felt everything was out of control and I had no idea what was going on. So I thought, right, I put it all down. So I started putting everything down in order to try to make my life easier and less stressed, to put a nice list of all the modules it is and other bits and pieces I need to be reviewing and making videos on. So I did all of that, and it was a stupidly long list. And then I'm getting constant email notifications telling me that I haven't done it yet, and I'm now late on this and I'm late on that. So it's created even more stress than I had in the first place. But it has reminded me of things like, I've got an Eventide Misha over there that I haven't touched. I need to do something on that. I've had a Modbap Trinity for a year. I noticed, as Facebook showed me a picture of it that I took a year ago, that I haven't done a video on. The Nautilus and Qubit, I've had that similar time. I haven't done a video on that. This is the flip side of being relaxed and groovy like I am. It's just that some stuff doesn't get things made on it. And then I do feel bad about that because people have sent it to me in good faith, If I've bought it myself, then it doesn't matter. It's entirely up to me. But some people do send me stuff. So I need to get on top of those sorts of things. So I have those things to come. I've got a lot of great ideas. A lot of great things I could be doing. Looking around my room. As well as I need to do some stuff on that reel-to-reel. Oh, most certainly. I've got a bunch of DIY stacking up over here. Onwards and onwards. Yeah. So lots of things to come. So if you are a manufacturer out there who has stuff and you'd like someone to make a video on it, I am open to all of that. And I'd say I don't charge. I just don't guarantee that I'll get it done very quick. But if it's something that's interesting, I'll bloody give it a go. I absolutely will. Absolutely will. And that's my plan. And certainly in the new year, in 2024, I will endeavour to crack on through. But just to mention, Synth East, of course, coming up in February. That'll be on us before we know it. There are still tickets left. Plenty of room on the workshops. If you're interested in doing some DIY soldering, do sign up for one of the workshops. Those are going to be super cool. Otherwise, it's a weekend of really interesting stuff. Also, I've got to contend with the week before that, on the Thursday before the Synth East, I'm doing a workshop for the Norwich Science Fair. I've got lots of time for that. And then a couple of weeks after Synthfest, I'm doing this strange Norfolk County music festival where we are creating an electronic music category for people to come and perform at and be critiqued on. So I haven't quite got this across very well, I don't think, because people are talking about, as I'm asking for people's advice and ideas about it, the basic idea at this festival is that it's for amateurs, it's for beginners, for people who are learning, to give them an opportunity to experience what it's like to perform in front of an audience and to get some feedback on what they're doing. So if you're an EMOM veteran, it's really not for you. If you've got records out, it's probably not for you. But if you're fiddling around at home, trying out with stuff, putting stuff together, and you've never done anything with it, and you're not sure what to do, that's who it's for, really. It's for people who are learning to play the violin and want to get out there, who are singing or are songwriters or have just started a band or are playing piano or singing in a choir. It's that kind of environment that we're bringing this into. So it's not for seasoned old pros. I mean, I'm not going to be playing at it. I'm going to be hosting it with a bit of luck. So it's for people who are really wanting to learn, who want to hear some constructive criticism on what they're doing, and that sort of thing. I want the experience of performing in front of an audience. That's kind of what we're after, I would say. I hope that's helpful. Any op amps in the future? Well, I say we'll be doing some DIY, I hope. Yes, and I do mean to drag the Decars Dream out and just finish off those couple of little niggly bits. Yes, I do hope to do that too. Thanks, Jason. Great. Well, in that case, I will leave it here. I think it's unlikely that I'll do anything this side of New Year now. I'll have a couple of videos out. Like I say, hopefully the Bullfrog one next week at the very least, if not a couple of others. I'd like to do a little bit of DIY. I'd like to squeeze one of those in, and I'd like to squeeze in the video on those stands that I promised KV Gear that I would do. Those would be good to do before Christmas if I can. Otherwise, might see you at the EMOM in January. Or I'll have my head down getting everything ready for Synth East in February. So have a jolly, jolly Christmas out there and a happy New Year. Go and get yourself plastered and do something unsavoury, I would suggest. And I hope that was helpful. So go and make some tunes. Thanks for sticking with us. Really appreciated. Really appreciated. Oh, I should give my last thanks, of course, if you haven't tuned out already. It's just to all the patrons. The people who have stuck with me on Patreon has been amazing. It's never been more than 100 people, and that's all right. I mean, it'd be great if it was 1,000 people, but it's unlikely to be. But I really touched and find it in some ways bewildering that people are happy to give me a couple of quid once a month and to support what I do. Because as I've shown you, it's not a money-making operation. It really isn't. And I probably earn as much from Patreon as I do from YouTube, and so those two things combined actually make, a week's worth of work. Do you know what I mean? So it's enormously helpful, and I'm indebted to them, particularly as I don't give them hardly anything. You get nothing for being my patron. I haven't got any specials. There's a little bit of music I think I've put up that people can access. There's a Discord channel where we can chat, and obviously you can directly message me. That's fine, but I don't have anything particularly new and exciting for you. I do have ideas about that, like the synth library we've spoken about, maybe even a synth swap idea that's been banging around. It's just getting these things off the ground is a bit tricky, but I am extraordinarily grateful to all the patrons who just stick their money where their mouth is. It's enormously helpful. Go and support people that you like on Patreon. It's definitely worthwhile. I absolutely do it. I support a good dozen people on Patreon as well. Just little bits, just throw them a quid. Doesn't have to be massive, but support people that you like. I can tell you absolutely, it's an extraordinarily encouraging and useful thing. All right. And to you, sweet subscribers, thank you too. Do keep them coming. It'd be great to get to 50 grand. That'd be brilliant. Remarkable, I think. Cool, right. I'll go now. Thanks ever so. Take care.